Lycanthropy, the ability to change from a human form into the form of an animal, usually by supernatural means, and usually into the form of a wolf. Now, there is also clinical lycanthropy, and that is the delusion that you have the ability to become a werewolf or some form of animal. But we're not talking about clinical lycanthropy. That's boring. Today we're talking about werewolves. What's up, guys? I'm Code Gray. Welcome to the channel. So what do werewolves and motorcycles have in common? Well, don't worry, we're going to get to that. We're going to save that for more towards the end of the video. But it is October. We are quickly approaching Halloween, so hey, figured it'd be a good time to bring up movie monsters. And I'm sure that you've already figured out my favorite movie monster is the werewolf. It has been ever since I was a very young kid. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over some werewolf movies that I really enjoyed growing up, and maybe a few that I didn't enjoy quite as much. But what I'll do is I'll start with my favorite and kind of work my way backwards down to some of the worst ones I've seen. And this will also kind of explain why the werewolf has always been my favorite movie monster. Now, before I tell you my first one, which is my favorite, and I think is still the best werewolf movie today, to date, I should say, you need to know a little bit of backstory. My mother was a huge horror movie fan. And also, my mom wasn't the type of person to say, you're too young to watch this stuff. She was like, hey, we're gonna watch some horror movies tonight. Grab some popcorn and let's go. So that's what we did. I was watching horror movies, like some really gory horror movies at a very young age. As a matter of fact, and I think this is part of the reasons why it's my favorite as well, the very first movie that my mom ever took me to at the theater was An American Werewolf in London. So, An American Werewolf in London, it's a very early 80s film. I think 81 maybe. 81, 82, somewhere around there. But no one to date has been able to replicate or improve upon that very famous werewolf transformation. Now, to kind of give you an example, my children, you know, of course, they've grown up with movies that also had all sorts of, you know, special effects, CGI, and, you know, CGI werewolves are 95% of the time usually pretty hokey looking, a little bit too cartoonish. So, last year, I believe it was last year as a matter of fact, I decided to go ahead and show them that transformation in American Werewolf in London. Now, this is special effects from the early 80s. And when my kids watch this, my kids are in their 20s, by the way. When my kids watch this, they both said, holy crap, that almost looks real. Yeah. Yes, it definitely almost looks real. I remember being that little kid in the theater just kind of 100% believing that was actually happening. The acting in the movie, well, it's an 80s movie, so it's not bad. You know, it's good enough for the rest of the movie. The plot and the storyline, it's all pretty good. Not as fleshed out as maybe some of the newer films because, hey, it's an 80s movie, you know. Not always the greatest films that came out back then, I guess. Now, the next one on the list, very good movie, good acting, and it stays pretty true to the werewolf genre, is Wolf, starring Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer. late 90s movie, I believe. Of course, it's Jack Nicholson, so you know it's going to have good acting, and Michelle Pfeiffer. What I really liked about that movie was the slow transformation. You know, each night as the full moon, as the moon got a little fuller, the transformation was a little more and a little more until he finally became the full wolf. Real good movie. James Spader's in that movie too. Yeah. Okay, next one. We've got The Wolfman. Now that's the Benicio del Toro remake I'm talking about. Not the original. Now the original with Lon Chaney Jr., I believe, was good, but it's a very old film. Very old film. Long, long before my time. But the remake was very good. The look of the Wolfman in that movie was very close to what I would picture a good-looking Wolfman to be, you know, a true to form. Very close. I think my only hang-up would be the very large underbite. It's almost pig-looking rather than wolf-looking. Other than that, very good. Real good movie. Okay, now if we're talking about werewolves, we gotta say the Underworld series. Now, yes, these movies are not 100%, you know, werewolf focused. It's vampires versus werewolf. But, you know, they're all good movies. Cool looking werewolves in that movie. Transformations were pretty good. Which is actually one of my biggest hang-ups with werewolf transformation in movies nowadays over the last 10-15 years or so, 20 years I guess. Too much CGI. 95% of the werewolf transformations in movies, they just look stupid. They look hokey, goofy. Yeah, I just don't like CGI transformations most of the time. 95% of the time, they just look bad. They're bad. Let's stick with practical. Let's just stick with practical effects on that. You know, it looks so much better. So much better. Now, those are some of the movies that are my favorites of the werewolf genre. What I tried not to do before I came to record this video, I tried not to search up too many werewolf movies because, in my opinion, if they don't stick out in my mind and I just can't pull them from memory, they probably weren't that great of a movie to begin with. So if someone was to come up to me and say, hey man, what's your favorite werewolf movies? These are the ones that I would rattle off from memory because they've stuck with me the most. Now there are some that they're okay. Maybe the acting's not the greatest, you know, the special effects aren't the greatest, or they're just campy movies, you know, meant to be less serious. You know, you got movies like Teen Wolf, you know, obviously it's a comedy, you know, not meant to be taken seriously. Now there's plenty of others that you could just do a werewolf movie search on Netflix or Amazon or whatever, and you might find a few decent ones on there. I've seen a few like indie movies that turned out to be okay. Now none of the titles stick in my brain, so they're not that great, I guess. Now before we go any further, I have to say this. Don't start asking me about Twilight. We're not mentioning Twilight. That's not werewolf movies. I'm sorry, that has nothing to do with it. You want to talk Twilight? I don't know, go somewhere else. We are not talking Twilight. Okay, so now I've told you some of my favorite movies, some of the ones I don't really care for, or they're okay, and some of the ones that, well, at least one that I don't really want to talk about. Anyway, I said at the beginning of this video, what do motorcycles and werewolves have in common? That's going to lead us to the last movie I'm going to mention. Now this movie, it came out in 1971, And it is the self-proclaimed very first movie that is a werewolf and motorcycle horror movie. It is called Werewolves on Wheels. Now, I have to be honest, I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the trailer, and after seeing the trailer, I have no desire or need to see this movie. Watch the trailer on YouTube. It'll tell you everything you need to know about this movie. It is a 1971 pure camp goofy movie. Now, the premise of this movie is, of course, the evil biker gang decides to go to a monastery and start harassing these monks. Well, little known to the bad biker gang that these monks are actually Satanists, and these Satan worshiping monks trick one of the bikers' wives into joining one of their rituals. Okay, and this ritual transforms this woman into a werewolf, and of course she goes back and one by one turns the rest of the gang into motorcycle riding werewolves. Yeah, just watch the trailer. You'll see what I mean. You don't need to watch the whole movie to kind of get exactly what's going on with this. Ooh, well, I'm gonna have to pull over somewhere here and swap these batteries out and give you guys a proper ending. I don't want this thing cutting out on me at any moment. Well guys, batteries have been changed. It's time to wrap up this video. It's starting to get late, and I gotta find a place to get this gear off. So let me know in the comments what your favorite horror movie monster is. But like I said, I have to go. Don't forget, I'm Code Gray. I'll catch you guys in the next one.